Thank you so much, Jenny, for agreeing to be a part of it. For everybody's benefit, I'll introduce Jenny Linden. So, Jenny is, I would say, an international person. She was born to a German mother and an American father. So, German is her mother tongue. But she's lived about in many parts of the world, including Jordan, India, Belgium, and
France.
France, yeah, of course. So she is a language and an intercultural expert. More than that, I think Jenny has a strong value system. I have seen her, I have been even mentored by her, especially when I was looking to change my jobs on my career, how to talk to people, and a lot of things. So she's a very, 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 very intelligent woman, strong, I would say, and she's well anchored in her values, and maybe that's why she's so successful, and she's been touching lives of students over the past many decades, I would say. So we are very glad to have Jenny here. So Jenny will talk to us about her value system, about her success, but also about the cultural specificities of Germany, and the philosophy of life, and a lot of other things. She's just going to have a nice chat with us.
Again, thank you for having me. I'm pleased to share and to join into the JZ Lifestyle Skills Academy, and I'll be pleased to come for and answer any questions at any time you or someone else would like to have advice or whatever is feedback, open questions. Just ask questions, and maybe it's just by being pushed asking other questions you might find, and you will always have to find your own way. So, how did my life go on? Maybe I can share my little presentation. Um, Here it is. Here we go. Now that's the end of it. I think the main questions you should always have on mind is what, how, who, and why you or I should go for something. Try to answer these questions and you'll get really good answers for yourself. So I was really, as Marilyn already mentioned, I was born into an international background, and at my age, my old age, this is why this starts once upon a time, this was not so usual as it is today. Um, I grew up in Germany, so German is my first language, all the way up to what is called in Germany Abitur, which means A level, end of school. Um, I was a very normal girl, nothing special, and I really did not know what I wanted to do afterwards. The thing I really knew is I didn't want to continue in the same way. And so, what was I given until then? I was brought up by an elderly lady, and she really taught me how to look at life. And I think there are quite a lot of things and values that I keep from her. And I'm really grateful to this person who was born, youngsters listen to this date, in 1893. Can you believe it? So that makes really big scope of history and life possibilities and what life uh, challenges to overcome. She lived through the two German world wars, so she had really, really to fight in her life. She told me a lot about these little points I put out here, which are only sort of bullet points, but it's major impact on who I am and how I live. I'll come back to these step by step. So, be good with others is really important. It does not mean that you have to love everyone, but just avoid judging too quickly, which is really difficult. And I myself have difficulties sometimes not to be too sudden to say, hey, I don't like that, or what is this person? But it's important to remember that it's good to be, first of all, you be good with others. If you then don't like someone, go on. But first, you have to consider the person as a person in the same way as you are yourself, a person yourself. So after a career in exports for about 20 years, I changed totally and I became a teacher and coach. And I must say, this is the most rewarding job you can do. Next step is talk, don't fight. Talk, don't fight means that you need to master your language to understand what communication means. And communication means, first of all, understanding, listen to the others. This does not mean, again, that you have to agree or that you have to share the same viewpoints, but at least you have to listen to it and say, hey, I never thought about that. What else? Be committed and don't give up. Be committed means what you're learning at JC's Skills Academy. Just go for something. If you believe in something, go for it. And even if there are difficulties, don't give up. Continue, try to find another way, try to find another way to look at things. Talk to other people again. Take your whatever kind of argument, accept it or don't accept it, share it or don't share it, but at least listen to it and hear it. And you will always find that any situation there is a solution to, even to the real big problems, there is a solution. But it might be sometimes difficult to find it. But this is what you have to do. Be committed and don't give up. What else? Be reliable and be accountable. This might be a very German Protestant way of looking at life. Be reliable means once you say you do something, do it. Once you be accountable, you are the only one responsible for what is happening to you, to yourself, and to others around you. This is, I think, really, this is a profound Protestant value. The responsibility is individual, it's yours, and don't blame others. I don't know how you feel about it, but it might be interesting to discuss this point. This sort of be reliable and be accountable, and just do what you say and say what you do. I found out about that a lot when I was in India. I lived for 1 year in Coimbatore. And to me, a very big difference is a yes is a yes. If I say I'll be there, I be there. If I can't come or if I can't do, I'll inform. If it's agreed, of course I don't have to reconfirm. And I was taught the lesson that in other cultures, maybe in India, to say, you say yes, but you don't necessarily mean yes. You say yes because you may not say no. And this to me is really difficult. So I have to admit it. I cannot share it because to me it's so opposite to what I was taught and to how I act. So what else? And then another point is really be curious. Does of course not mean be nosy, but it means be curious, be open, try to see things just and be astonished and ask. It's very interesting just to see and to say, hey, never saw that, never thought about it. What is that about? Why is it so? What for? How can I do that? Or how can I avoid not doing it? So be open means just be curious, see differences and accept there are always differences. This does definitely not mean that you have to like them again. I insist a lot on that because I was so often told around the world, this little saying, in Rome, do like the Romans do. To me, this is just impossible. And I would even say it's wrong to say so. When you go as a tourist, it's very different from going to a place and stay there for some time and live there. You cannot be another person. You grew up, you have your own mind shape, you know how you act and what you think and how you live. And it's very difficult to change that totally. So you cannot become a Roman because you're in Rome. But what you can do is you can be a guest and you can acknowledge differences and say, hey, that's astonishing, that's strange, that's wonderful, or this is something I really don't like. You neither have to like nor hate it, you just have to see it. And step back and say, okay, why is that? What makes me feel uncomfortable? What unsettles me? And who can I ask about it? What is right and what is wrong? We come here also to value friendship and be respectful. How to show respect is very different from one country to another. How you would say so, how you would act, how you would interact with a person. What means that you show respect? There's so many different ways of showing respect. And sometimes you might think you show respect and you don't. Oh, that happens as well. And you think you just do the right thing and it's totally wrong, but you're not even aware of it, then if you see on the faces of people expressions. Right, nowadays it's a bit difficult with all these mask wearing. You don't that much see face expression, but you can always ask. And if you feel something in the voice, it does not click. Ask, what's on? Is there anything I didn't understand? I think wherever you are in the world, you're always allowed to ask this kind of questions. As long as you ask, you'll learn more. So now it's your turn to ask, because your questions will teach me about what I told you and what was clear or unclear, what is very surprising or very, oh, yeah, of course. I will thank you for any kind of questions. And I invite you all at any time to come back and say, hey, what did you mean by? Or when did you live there? How did you do this or that? No nosy questions, curious questions are always welcome. Up to you now.
Yeah, so there is a question. Jenny, how have your values that you have just explained, how have they helped you become successful in life, like with your career and with your life? How have your values influenced your success?
I think one cannot distinguish between values and how you succeed. It's you do and you act and interact with others because of your mindset, and your mindset are your values. So this means when you're a young person, when I was young, I did not know where was heading for, what I really wanted to do, and in the beginning, I took sort of steps aside and I was searching. And then it really depends a lot on who you meet. You're vulnerable when you're young. It's very interesting for young people to find people like you open to listen and to listen to questions and to say, I don't know, I would like to do this, but then my father says, and then my mother says, and my grandma says. So, of course, it's difficult. And sometimes it's very, very good to ask someone else and just to hear the arguments of another person. And then at the end, with all the arguments you can gather, you will make your own decision, and your decision, you have to carry it out. And this is something that is really important to me. I believe it's not very easy, because if you say it's your own responsibility, you may never blame someone else, because you always have the choice. And we should maybe never forget that we always have a choice. We have the choice to say, I don't have a choice, but this is already a choice.
So I have a question, Ms. Jenny. Just wanted to ask you that how do you solve a confusion in your mind? Let's say you want to do a lot of things and you feel you have the skill to do it, but and you're confused. How do I put all this into practice? So what would you suggest for this?
Um, Maybe start a kind of to-do list and find out what you start with and what is for yourself or for a project or for a group or for a team, what is the most important immediately, and sort of really sort it out and make a first, second, third, like you do a presentation for your mind, to your mind presentation, and try to stick to it. The most difficulties appear when you say, okay, I know that I want to go from 1 to 2 and 1A, 1B, 1C, and then I continue. But all of a sudden in the middle of the road, you say, hey, oh, I just jump here and I jump there. This makes you really confused. And sometimes you need the assistance of someone else to pull you back on your path, on your path. It's not the path of someone else.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Another question is if are there any like specificities to Germany about like cultural value systems or particular values or something like that that you could maybe explain about?
Um, Having studied a lot about intercultural differences, I think the main point everybody should remember, there is no such thing as Germany or Germans. There are many, many more Indians than Germans. Now, would you dare say Indians are like this or that? Or Indian values are this and this and that? Of course, there are certain attitudes that you will sort of most commonly find. And not knowing how things go on, this is what you find in manuals. If you go here or there, do or don't do this or that. But this only appears to be correct for a very first beginning, and then you just have to be astonished. Look at things, and again, it's very different. Do you go to a place because you're as a tourist for a week or 2 or 3, or do you go to a place even for a short period of time, but to work with other people, different situations, or do you go there to live there for some time? And again, do you go there to live there for some time? Do you go by yourself? Do you go with your family? So, and what is the goal of it? Why do you go there? So, what would be very typical German, I think that the religious backgrounds have a lot of cultural influence. To me, religion, this might hurt some of you. To me, religion is not that much about belief. Religion is a lot about traditions and how to do things, rituals, heroes, what is right and what is wrong. And this varies really from one religion to another. However, all the big religions have the same principal goals. Still, religions fight a lot, and since ever. Because a religion only exists in comparison to another one. And to be compared, you need to be different. And if you want to be different, then you want to show that your difference, your way of looking at things is better than another. And religious problems, religious issues, you know well in India that there are some religious issues, but all around the world. Look at the United States of America. How many religious influences make all these fights, these ongoing fights. So it is quite sad to say that any kind of religion praises love and understanding. However, every religion tends to clash with us and to find that the others are the wrongdoers. The word religion comes from rely, put people together. But it means, in fact, that you put people together who believe or who look at life in the same way. And this means those who look to life at the same way, yes, the others elsewhere. So this is a personal standpoint. I don't know if this is German. I doubt it. Germany is principally a Christian country. No separation between state and religion, but it's no state religion. Many people are Christians, but many people left church because in Germany, when you are a Christian and you don't quit your church, you have to pay taxes, church taxes. And so people just quit. They quit their church not to pay taxes. There are since quite some time, there are many Muslims have arrived in Germany, many people from Turkey and from elsewhere. So there's quite big Islamic community in Germany. And you know, even Muslims are the same. They're divided. There are different ways of being a Muslim. So you must have heard of that, of the Protestant Catholic fight in history. So it's exactly the same. And unfortunately, religions, again, give a lot of very straight and strong ways of looking at traditions and how things are to be done and what is good and what is wrong. Good and bad vary a lot from one way of looking at life to another. And it's very difficult. And I think the most difficult word in the world is the word normal. What is normal to you and what is normal to me might be totally different. And yet it is normal. So it does translate very easily. I don't know about Tamil, but I'm sure there's something like normal in Tamil as well. And normal in the languages I know refers to norm, to standard. It only means by standard, this is what it needs to be done. That's the word normal. But who creates the standards? Who says what is the norm? Who defines it? Just have a look at how many male people have contributed to define what is normal. it is since thousands of years normal that men are managers. They were not called managers, but they acted like that. And now we are here, a couple of young women, young or old women, uh, and we do something. You do something. You go forward. I don't see a man here, but you might have men around you.
Okay.
No, it's very interesting, Jenny, because there's one teenager who was asking us earlier. They have certain decisions. They make certain decisions, and they want to make certain decisions, but it is very difficult to convince their parents that their decision is right because the parents are always right. That's also a normal, if you can say. So the father's always right, the mother's always right because they have more experience, they have more exposure, and they have more knowledge. So how do you think a child would a child, as when I say child, 20, 12, 12, 13, 14-year-old kids, when they are looking at forging their passion, or developing their career, and they wish to stop something, that there are some children who would say, I joined music when my parents asked me to learn music when I was a kid, when I was 5-year-old, and I'm continuing now, and she's doing very well, and they're doing very well. But then now the kid lost interest in piano, for example. But they say, oh, you've come so far, you should do it. And there's a lot of things, but the kid wants to just go and play football. So it's a very common question that children ask, how do we convince our parents who think they're always right? Do you have an
I
idea?
think children can never convince the parents because parents are so sure that they are right. And of course, most parents want good for their kids. Not every parent, not all parents, but most of them. And it's a lot of goodwill, and they think this is the best for the kid. And from my experience, from my life, I know that. But a kid is a person by itself, and it's very difficult when you're a teenager and you're talking about teenage period of life. Of course you get confused, and of course today you like football, tomorrow you like piano, and then you like long hair, and then you like short hair, and then you like this type of friend, and then you have that type of friend. This is normal, but this is normal not as a standard. It is just, the evolution, the physical evolution of children is like that. And it is, again, they need to fight against their parents because they need to find their own path. And by fighting with their parents, they sort of start to disconnect and to start to build up and to have a chance to be responsible for their own choice. If they stop football and they want to do piano, and a year later, friends tell him, hey, why don't you come play football with it? Oh, yeah, I'd love to. And the person has lost all skills, most of his skills, then it's the experience of, it was my responsibility. I wanted to quit, and now I've lost the skills. I can't do it anymore. I'm no good goalkeeper anymore. Or I can't play, I don't know what, this and that on the piano. And I have to train again. But you need to make, everybody needs to make its own experiences. You can never take over experience. You can hear it, you can understand, but it's intellectual. Experience is something that you do yourself, even the bad experiences. And I think every life has bad experiences, and everybody has made bad choices. That's part of life. And if there were no bad periods, then you would not be able to appreciate the real good periods. Because again, you see only the good because you know what means bad. If you only know good, you don't even know that it's good.
And today, like you gave the example of children before, it was like, okay, one thing they do and the focus is there. So now there are so many options and there are so much to do. And also social media can make things very confusing also. We want to do everything now, every possible thing. So we want to multitask. If we have a career, we are still seeing something else we can do on the side. So one side is our qualification, what we're doing, and one side we have other skills and we want to explore all of that. So I think sometimes trying to be perfect in everything can create a lot of stress, especially among kids today, where there's Yes, everyone wants to compare, and even as adults, sometimes you feel, okay, if I can do more than this, why not? So we can imagine the children. So it can get confusing.
And I think so many, especially younger people, are on social media, as you say, and they really live with the likes. How many likes do I get? How many
Yes.
friends do I have? Those are not friends. Those are people who are on the screen and whose names are on the screen. In my presentation, I talked about value realm of friendship, but real friendship is something that you don't have to see each other very often or send a like. If you get Whenever you get together in one way or the other, for the moment we get together on Zoom, but we still get together. But Merlin and I, we know that we can rely on each other, and whenever we want to contact each other, we know that we can do so, and we know that the answer we will get from the other person, whether it's okay or no, I can't, is a straight answer, and it's an answer that we can continue with it. We don't have to fight about that. It's very easy. Just ask the question. And this is what I understand by value friendship. And I'm lucky to have friends in many different parts of the world. And luckily, there's something like internet. So we can stay in contact. Because today, I mean, not too long a time ago, we had to send a letter. Imagine, it took days or even weeks before it arrived and before you get an answer back. It sounds like old history, but it's not that old. However, young people today, they want everything immediately. And I think there's a real problem, a physical problem, to many young people, that waiting for something, even waiting just for 5 minutes or for a day or a week before you get an answer or to see or to have something, that's so too long. And really, the social media and the mobiles and the immediate, and especially the likes, and people were academics write about that. Young people become sick because they don't have enough likes, and at school or in university they compare, and I only got 50. Oh, he has 150, so I'm a bad person. What I did is not good, and that really leads even to real sickness. So this is a new field, and it needs to be explored, and we need to address it in a different way. I don't have the answer to that because not many people have the answer, but we know from that studies in schools show that many more kids just cannot sit and listen because they are not used to it. And they need a screen, and they need that immediate and change all the time. So children who grow up, I think, surrounded with very little screens and with a lot of stories and books around are really lucky. They will, of course, it's not that they should not learn how to use a computer and how to use a mobile phone. Of course, they have to know that. But there's time enough, and just be there and, I don't know, sit on mommy's lap and look at the book, look at pictures and have explanations. Makes things much more calm. And I don't know how the outcome will be, but I think that's a better start to life.
No, I totally agree with you, Jenny, because when we see a lot of children, because we keep meeting a lot of children, it's so sad to see that they get bored easily, and I've never heard, it's very recent over the past. If I've been with children and working with children over the past 20 years, it's in the recent 5 or maybe 7, 10 years that children start saying, "I'm feeling bored." I've never heard of it before, and so when children say, "I'm feeling bored," it's bizarre. It's like, how can you feel bored? And a very funny incident that I want to share is we were looking at buying a car. So the guy is selling accessories. So he says, when you go on a long drive, your kids might get bored. So you should have a what do you call that? A monitor,
Yeah.
or no, a kind of an entertainment screen, or behind each, so that they can see and they don't disturb you. And it is like, and they said that, and then I was curious, since I'm in the field, so I was curious, like, how many people buy? And then they said approximately one of every two cars we sell this. And I said, and they said, yeah, it's normal, and you will know, and they were like, you won't regret it, you will definitely use it because you're going to use this car for long distance. I said, no, I want my kids to look out and see the thing. But that's also something that, as you said, children want those images. That's also something that we help them. I mean, we teach them, or we let them do. No.
See, maybe we can compare smoking cigarettes to screen changing all the time. It is addictive. Cigarettes were made to become addictive. So if you start to smoke, you have the feeling and you need it. It's like being an alcoholic. You need it. And the screens and the changing images and the pixel on it, they are addictive. So children don't need them, but I keep seeing people in Parisian transportation and just babies to make them stop crying or just to be there. Parents hand over their mobile phone with the video to babies, and the baby is sitting there. And if the parent takes the mobile phone off, it's screaming. And the answer is either another video or a candy. Of course, how does this little baby grow up? What does it learn? Because babies learn all the time. And this is afterwards the kid who gets bored. And if there's not a change, something that a kick out immediately, and more and more and more, this is what boredom is about. The idea of just, hey, looking at something and saying, hey, haven't seen that before. Just walking in the street. I know that in India people don't walk that much, but even just seeing neighbors or seeing another flower, you don't realize anything what is around you. And so many people are in the street and they have their mobile phone, and they meet many people, but they don't see anyone. They bump into people, and even friends, people who would know, they don't see each other because they just avoid you because they are on their mobile. So we have a lot of technical interaction possibilities, and practically, I think we interact less and less.
Actually, now
Of course, that was probably the COVID.
children eating food, even small babies, like you said, it's become a trend that that they eat their food only if most of them having a screen in front of them. Either now we have YouTube on television, so they'll either be watching a cartoon or the mobile or a laptop, but something is in front of them when they eat. That's become a very common trend, I think, among 99% over here. And then what to do? The kids don't eat. Some of them, since their parents have got them used to this, they don't eat if there's no screen over there. And also sometimes if a mother is all alone, she doesn't have help, and she knows that by giving the screen, the child will be okay sitting in one place for some time. Sometimes she just has to give in so that she can maybe do the cooking or cleaning at that point of time when
I totally get your point, and I totally understand what you're saying.
Yes.
However, and this is personal experience, it works exactly the same way if you hand books to babies, and then even little babies. I have 2 grandchildren. They are 2 and 4 years old, so they're really small. Even the little one, sometimes she takes a book and she sits down and she back and forth and she upside down and she looks at the pictures. So she can do something by herself. I mean, at 2 years of age, not a lot by herself, but sometimes it's possible that she stays there. The 4-year-old, the other day, I had a Zoom lesson for 1.5 hours. She was sitting next to me. She was drawing. Sometimes she tried to ask me a question, but she was there for 1.5 hours. No screen. I was on the screen. It was for a lesson, like this screen. So this is totally different for a video. And she was there next to me and she was okay. She didn't scream. She didn't run around. She was okay. She knew what to do. And I told her she may see the students, she may have a look, but she needs to be in background. And it worked out. So it's possible. It depends how you literally feed the children when they're really small. And the feeding, I mean, eating only when you have a screen, you don't eat. You nourish yourself.
Yes.
That's a difference.
Your life, if you would like to share, what was the most challenging situation and how did that form you? Do you have any incident to share with us? I mean, I'm sure you have many, but if there's something like, the toughest or the most difficult or the most weird, whatever, is there something like that you would like to share? And then, how you got through it and what you learned or how did it help you?
Well, then, as you mentioned, I changed countries quite a lot, and so hopping around from here to there is challenging, and it keeps on to be challenging. maybe I would come back to a situation where I was really, really, really angry. I was to get a job with a little small company, but interesting company. And I had already had 3 interviews. And then I had this final appointment with the boss of the company. When I arrived on time I said, I'm to meet Mr. So-and-so. Okay. Oh, Mr. So-and-so cannot see you. He has now glanced through your application and he just saw that you're a woman. He won't see you. Because for this kind of position, it's not even seeing the woman. Just no way. And this is really frustrating. Because therefore, once I mentioned there are always solutions, but this really shows that to a certain point, there are barriers which are still very strong and there. And unfortunately, we as women still have really difficulties to tell the society, people around us, that we are just as valuable and as strong, as capable as anyone else. So what did it teach me? That I have to literally swallow and sit back and say, okay, so I was happy to have this job and okay, start from scratch again. And job-wise and looking for a job all around through my career, there were many different situations when it was really difficult for various reasons. Again, as a woman, as a young woman with a young mother, you are too young, you're little children, then of course your children will be sick and you will not be here and stuff like that. So no. And I found out that for the same position between me and a colleague, a male colleague, the difference was from salary wise, from 1 to 5. So that's tough to accept, and I never accepted it. I don't accept it until today. And I don't know if you have ever heard of Pippi Longstocking. Have you heard of her? And she's the perfect opposite of a Barbie. She's red-haired, and she's a real strong girl, living by herself. And I think this kind of story and this kind of idol as a kid, that's a kid's story, is something that many young girls should hear, and not only about Barbie and be beautiful. And you are beautiful because you're blonde, you have blue eyes, you look like Melania Trump.
True. Yeah, the idols that we show our children are also important. The people that we introduce them to are important for sure. For sure. Thank you, Jenny. That's very interesting. Do we have any other questions?
Miss Jenny, what is the culture difference you've seen where you stay and in India? And is there a word of advice you would want to give us?
How could I give you an advice?
In terms of attitude, in terms of decision making. So when you interacted with the two worlds, what difference do you see?
Being for 1 year in Coimbatore was, to me, very eye-opening about myself, because I realized how many things were normal to me, and I was unsettled with it. And yet, I very much enjoyed being there. From India, I went to Jordan, and I thought that coming from Coimbatore, going to Jordan would be somewhere in the middle between India and Europe, Jordan. And it is, arriving there, the streets are better. It's been a little bit more organized, maybe differently organized. And I hated it there because I could not get along at all with the culture there. It's really a Islamic country. And as a woman alone, it was impossible. Whereas in India, I found, of course, it is not obvious to be a woman alone, but as a woman, as a teacher, you're respected in comparison. And I appreciated that a lot. And I really liked the brightness and the smile of people. Whereas in Middle East, in Jordan, people don't smile. So what kind of advice? It really depends In Coimbatore, I had in my classes, I had many young Indian ladies who were to be married to an Indian living in Germany. This is why they had to learn German. And what did I tell them? How can you explain what warm clothes mean? Um, the best example I could give them was, you know how cold it gets up in Uti. So go get sweaters from Uti before you leave for Germany. Because even the warmest sari does not work out. But it's very difficult to talk about something when you cannot relate to it at all, because it does not exist at all. What kind of food you can buy, how people live, that you live by yourself. I mean, even if you get married, your wife and husband, that's it, and kids. But there's no family around. I mean, there's just how you can make friends. Where would you go to? That you would go out by yourself. And again, it's your responsibility. You go, you meet people. I have the feeling that you girls who I'm seeing here, you would do so. But it's not when you're like 18, 20, 22, and you're to leave your family and go to Germany, not knowing the language or very little of it. That's not so easy. And it's not advice, it's just maybe be cautious about this and that and ask questions. Don't forget, you may always ask. And this is true. If you come to Europe, I would say, now, not many people speak English, some really well, others hardly. But ask questions, and it's possible, and you will get answers. Sometimes you will get off because some people, and the more immigrants had come in 2015, unfortunately, the more people are rejecting people not from not being locals. So unfortunately, the right wing, extreme right wings are stronger and stronger, and we see that around the world again. I find it very dangerous. But otherwise, so you can ask anyone in the street. You won't be assaulted. You won't be aggressed. It's easy and simple. Just go and ask. Whether it's for a job, within a new job, you go there. You don't know. You don't have to know. It's normal that you don't know. Ask. Best advice for a young person to go there would be to live with other young people in what is called a common shared apartment. So 3, 4, 5 young people having one apartment together, and then share. And then you have other young people who go to university to the same type of studies, and you can find out more about who, where, why, and you would find something. Where is this and this? How can I find? Where can I get? Very simple things.
Asking questions is an excellent advice. That's something that we never ask, and we hesitate. Sometimes we are afraid to show that we don't know something, but I think the courage is in the asking, and I think that's a valuable piece of advice for anybody.
If I
I
may
would say.
add, as a language teacher, I do avoid in my classes to ask the questions, did you understand? Because nobody likes to answer, no, I'm dumb and I didn't get it. If you ask and if you put the responsibility on you as a teacher, was that clear enough? Did my point come across? Then if it's no, it's my fault and not the person's fault. And it makes it so much easier to say, I don't know, that was not really clear. Could you come back to this and that? And that makes a difference. So language and the words we use make a difference. And of course, asking questions, you see, whenever you do a meeting and you say, now, please, questions, you know that there are some people who will always ask a question, but there are 1 or 2 in the crowd. And many people have questions and don't dare asking.
Thank you, Jenny. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for spending your time, sharing your wisdom, having this chat with us. It was really nice to talk to you.